Hey Lance, thanks for having the Petersen Automotive Museum back.
You guys are welcome, Christian. It's always wonderful to have you guys at Superformance, Shelby Legendary Cars, and Hillbank, the home of everything from the 60s, Shelby. So today I'd love to show you around, and this is our 427. Now this is a particular special car, special edition. It was the 50th anniversary, 427 Cobra, 50 years since 1965 of the 427 Cobra, the big block Cobra as everybody calls it. They were the muscle. They were really incredible. It's the car that's probably been the most replicated ever. We did these for Shelby originally, all 50 of them. Most of them were aluminum body cars. A lot of them were polished. We sold them, man, around 200,000 new, and they now all over 400,000 if you try and find the 50th anniversary Cobra. This particular one was one of the few fiberglass cars we did. There were very few. And it put it into a different market for the guy who couldn't afford the aluminum car. Stunning car. Doug will start it up for us. You can hear with the big block. This has an original iron block FE in it. 100% correct. And I'll walk you over. So the 427s weren't the famous race cars. They did race, but the 289s, the slab side Cobra, the FIA Cobra, those are the ones that took Shelby to the fame and won all the races. By the time the 427 came along in end of 64, 65, there was already the GT40s and the Daytonas, and they were so much faster. But I've got a very interesting 427 Cobra here that I've got to show you. It's based on what was famously known as the Essex Wire Cobra, and that's number 91. So this car raced a lot in Europe, and it's probably it is the most successful 427 race car that was ever done. This is a clone. This is a CSX 6000. Very interesting buyer from Germany that bought the car, and he actually's driven it all over Southern California, and when he can fly again, when he can come to America again, he plans to drive this to Miami from Orange County. So
now, what's the difference between the CX, you said CX6?
This is CSX 6000 series, so that's the number series. Shelby used CSX 4000 for the first 427 Cobras that they started building after not building them for 20, 30 plus years. These are original Shelbys now. These are considered genuine Shelbys. They're not cars built in the 60s, but Carroll carried on producing cars, and they're real Shelbys. They're in the Shelby registry, and it's the real deal too. And you can see in this car's case, it has a Shelby aluminum block engine from Shelby Engines, stroke to 468 cubic inch. It's close to 600 horsepower. Incredible car, incredible car.
And how much power does this put out?
This makes close to 600 horsepower.
How's the handling of one of these?
So the Cobra's handled really well. People have this idea that they don't stop or they don't do this, they don't do that, but they forget that the Cobra held the record into the 80s. 0 to 60 and back down was held by a Cobra, and only just beaten in the 80s by a Porsche. So they do handle really well. They just so much fun to drive, and the sound that you get and everything that's connected to the Shelby Cobra. It was an amazing car. It was a unique car.
All right. What's that yellow car right behind you?
So that's a little caterham. These cars were originally built by Lotus in the 50s, and the company was sold. Caterham was sold the rights to these cars, man, I think it was back in the 60s, if I remember correctly, and it was in the town of Caterham, and they named the company Caterham Cars, and they've been around, and they build beautiful cars. We're a Caterham dealer, and you can go all the way from the baby Caterham, which is, this is close to the smallest one they do a smaller one, right up to the 620R, where you end up with 310 horsepower in something that weighs 1,200 pounds with a 6-speed sequential gearbox. It's very difficult to drive anything that's more fun than that. It's a go-kart on steroids.
And it's street legal?
Street legal, oh yeah.
And what do these go for? Or what do they start at, I should say?
They started around 60,000 and go all the way up to 100, 110,000 for a 620R. We've had famous owners like Simon Cowell bought one. We've got many of the musicians and stuff love these cars. They're pretty cool.
Okay. Hey, what's that rack up there? I see a whole bunch of cool cars.
That's just the spare toys. That's my son's little Datsun 510. He's a big 510 fan. And as you know, Peter Brock made the 510s famous with BRE Racing. That's a Series 1, actually a Series 2. It was the next generation that Carol had built back in the early 2000s. I found that one with 150 miles on it. Now it's about 300 miles. We've done a bit of driving. And these are some of my customers that have bought Cobras, GT40s, Daytonas, all that from me. I find them other cars too. So that gentleman's in Australia, and we got him that Ford GT going back.
There's a car with plastic over it.
So that's the Piranha. That was a famous car that Superformance developed right before the last economic crash in 2008. We had more than 800 orders for them, but the economy died on us and the poor car got deserted. I sold 7 of them in the US. Great car. The guys who owned them loved them. They're reselling now for a lot more than we originally sold them for, and it was a pretty cool car. It was designed by Zagato for Superformance, and it had modern drivetrain, had air conditioning, power steering, electric windows, backup camera. Pretty cool car. You can look up Piranha, spelled P-E-R-A-N-A, not like you spell the fish, but like we spell it. And then these are mostly just cars that are already sold, waiting to be delivered to their owners. And that's how they're coming. By the way, that's how they come from the factory. As they did in the 60s, Carol got the rolling chassis from England and put the engines, the drivetrains in America. And that's exactly how we get them in. Like that, we add the engines and transmissions in the US, and this is what they look like before they get the engines.
It's a very clean engine bay.
Yeah. Everything is done already. All the wiring is done. All the fuel lines are run. If you hook up a battery, the lights and everything will come on. This happens to be one of our different cars. This is an R. This is a couple of little trick things from current cars, and it's for a different buyer that wants to go for something a little younger looking. So we cater to that market also. And this is called our Superformance MK3R.
Now, is it common to have a red brake in the front caliper and black in the rear?
Yeah, we basically put the bigger brakes, the 6-piston Woolworths in the front, and the regular Woolworth in the rear.
Okay. Now you have a unique white one over here. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, that's our Chinese Cobra. So that was built specially to export to China. We built quite a few of them. These were built with 4-cylinder engines and automatic transmissions. So and it's the Mustang engine. It's the Mustang turbocharged 4-cylinder. So
the EcoBoost one.
The EcoBoost.
Yeah.
It's a great engine. The little car looks like a production car under the hood. There's the engine. But the engine came out at roughly around 360 horsepower, and the car weighs 2,200 pounds with this engine. So it's still very fast. It's still a very fast car.
Yeah, when you said 4-cylinder, I was kind of like, but then, yeah.
No, it's a very cool car to drive. For China, they have to be automatic. They don't do manual, but the manual version is a fast car to drive and a fun car to drive.
So this is automatic as well?
This is automatic, yes.
Okay.
4-speed automatic, AOD.
I see. That's very deceiving, that little boot there.
And we built some of them that went to China with air conditioning, power steering, backup camera, full sound systems. They had everything in them.
Cool.
Oh, and we also put ABS and traction control in, believe it or not.
So it's basically like a modern car.
Yeah, we put everything in for them. And here's a good example of what we call a roadster. This is a street car, no roll bar, no side pipes, no hood scoop. And that's how the original first 427 Cobras were. There were more street cars, approximately 300 street cars, that didn't have side pipes and hood scoop and of course roll bar. But most of the original cars that came out like that, the owners over the years have put side pipes on them, put roll bars in to look like the track cars. There were only the SC, when you say 427 SC, stood for semi-competition, and there were approximately 32 of them built.
Now, can they come to you to get the side exhaust put on, or?
Oh yes, they can come to us afterwards and we will make changes for them.
Any other special ones over here you might point out?
Well, we've got one of the 50th anniversary slab sides standing right over here, and actually you can go across this way, it's easier to notice. There it is. That's a 50th anniversary slab side. These were sold in the first 24 hours, all sold out. All 50 of them were sold.
You did a run of 15?
50,
50, okay.
And all 50 were sold. We launched them at Barrett-Jackson, and they took orders for all of them within 24 hours. Some of them were aluminum and some of them were fiberglass. And there's our famous GT40 that we've had for many, many years, Mark II. This one, my son and I have probably driven on almost every racetrack in the US. We've had a lot of fun with this car over the years. It's got its battle scars. It's been driven by almost all the press, all the different bloggers and press outlets have picked the car up and driven it. This Top Gear, it was on the Top Gear show, the British Top Gear and the American Top Gear. It's done a lot of miles. It's been a fun car. A really good car. You've got to find my son. Ashton, you've got to come start this one up. I know we haven't run it for a long time, but this will sound so cool.
You think it'll start?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. This old girl, we've had her now probably 15 years. 15 years. My son gets in there now, he's put a seat that fits him and not me because he doesn't want me driving it anymore. So I got thrown out of my own car. Mike. There you go. Don't take too much time, we're videoing. Move it up. Give it some gas. There you go. One more. Okay, and this one was also in Ford versus Ferrari. It was actually just there as a prop car. So it was one of the stage scenes where they're showing them working on the GT40. It had the clam off and the front clam off, and it was one of. And the engine was out at the time. We did everything for the movie just so it could look like a car being put together. But yeah, it was in the movie. We had approximately 30 odd cars in the movie. All the Cobras were ours. Two of the GT40s used in the movie were ours. The one that Henry Ford drove in.
Four, but mine plus the
yeah. Oh,
burn car.
yeah. My son just corrected me. Plus these, that's four GT40s, and we had the shell of the car that burnt, caught a light at the airport at the accident. That was one of ours too. And it's been bought by a guy that's actually going to restore it. It's going to go back on the road. So old GT40s never die.
All right, Lance. Well, thank you for taking the Petersen Automotive Museum on another tour. Would you mind if we came back a little later and checked out the last part of the warehouse?
Only a pleasure. Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you.